Welcome back, Shit Talking Nation. This is Logan and Daniel, two dads talking. Now, this platform is of the people, by the people, and most importantly, for the people. You know, we are not one of those platforms that are like, hey, look at us. We really wanted to be about you and topics that are relevant for dads and for families and for just people that want to hear an interesting perspective on different topics. Now, to do that, we would love to invite our audience to give us ideas, whether it be new, fresh ideas they would like us to talk about, whether they have a comment on show ideas that we've currently done, whether they have an experience and maybe they would want to join the show to talk about their experience on a topic that we've done. You know, we welcome it all. So if that is you out there in Shit Talking Army, then please put your name and how to get a hold of you in the comments. Or we will, I think, Daniel, do we have our email up yet and running?
We do.
Okay. Give them the email, or at least we'll put it in the link below.
It's two dads talking shit at gmail.com.
Okay, great. So yes, please send us an email with any thoughts or show ideas. Please put comments, subscribe, like the show. We would just love to grow the platform, grow the army, and most importantly, just be a sounding board for people such as ourselves, just two dads out here that are just talking about things that have happened in our lives, things that are currently happening in our lives, and things that we hope and wish for that will happen in the future. Now, I will tell everyone, I want to thank everyone. First, I want to apologize to my partner, Daniel, because I told him in our last show that the next show I will shut my big mouth and I will let him have it because he has so many great show ideas and so many topics that he wants to talk about and experiences from his life. And I want to make sure that we give him an opportunity to do that. But unfortunately, Daniel, due to our last show, due to the response, due to the flamethrower, things that have happened behind the scenes through other social media platforms and text threads and phone calls that I've been receiving, I have to do a follow-up on the last show where your boy was being accused of bullying and being accused of giving a nickname that adversely affected a classmate of mine that I really wanted to apologize for, still do. So I'm still very sorry that, my name's ever been attached to an alleged bullying, but I want to let people know that even the alleged bully, me, has been bullied himself. And I like to talk about my experience being bullied and how I handled it and what came of it. So today's show, I would love to go over that. But before I do that, let me talk to my co-host for a minute. Daniel, how's it going? What's new in your world? And, anything interesting that you'd like the people to know about here today?
Yeah, absolutely. It's another beautiful day here in Colorado. We're supposed to be in the 70s today. I've been doing been doing a lot of networking in the Denver metro area. What a great community, man. Great community, met a lot of amazing business owners and just people in the community.
That's awesome. Now, Daniel, we don't talk a lot about what we do, in our day-to-day lives. Maybe explain to the people out there what you do and how you do it and how you go about it, because with your company specifically, you can do it all over the world. You don't have to be tied to a general location.
Yeah, absolutely. So yeah, I'm the owner of OnPoint Media and Communications. I've been in business for about 5 years. I specialize in graphic, web, and digital marketing. Work with anywhere from startups to I work with the Los Angeles Tribune as an example, and have clients all over the world, really. Here, California, Europe, Dubai,
And
and
don't forget your hometown, your home state of Michigan.
Yeah, of course, Michigan too.
Yeah, I saw the Detroit cap today, so want to make sure we give Michigan a shout out.
Oh yeah, go blue!
Go blue! Yeah, go blue! All right, well, excellent. How's the family? How's the wife? The babies?
Doing well. As I think I said last episode, my oldest son, he will be most likely starting school as early as next month because he turns 3 already. and
All
just
right.
crazy.
Well, congratulations to the big Saint Nick. That's great that y'all named him Nicholas and being a December baby.
It's a strong name.
He won't get teased on that one.
No.
All right. Well, that's pretty awesome. Well, again, today's show is going to be called "The Alleged Bully Was Bullied Himself." So I'd like to tell you a little story. So sit back with your favorite, your two favorite dads, and it's a little story time by Logan. So this goes back to, again, my hometown of the Woodlands, Texas. It goes back to a time when, again, it was a very magical it was a town before it became the metropolis it is today. And when I first moved to the Woodlands, Texas, I lived in a place called Grogan's Landing Apartment. Now, what made this place so special was that, again, the Woodlands was very new. It was just starting to grow. Families were moving out of the city and taking what they called that suburb flight. What I forgot what they called that back in the day. But where folks moved out of the cities and were moving to the suburbs. And what was really neat about this place was that, when I think of my childhood and all the amazing, fabulous memories I have of the Woodlands, one of them really is this apartment complex called Grogan's Landing Apartments. And what was cool about it was across the street from my elementary, which you heard me mention before, Haley Elementary. Go Comets. So you had the elementary across the street. Right next door to the apartments, butting up against the apartments, was the junior high, which was Knox Junior High. And then up the street was the only middle school, which was Wilkerson. So we all had fields and, from all the different schools that you could go play, any kind of sporting game that you want to go play. Our apartment complex had a 13-foot deep pool. Go find an apartment today that has a 13-foot pool. If I could talk to that, it'd be dangerous. No lifeguard. I'm sure there was some signs up of some sort, but really it was like, hey, don't drown. We're not responsible if you drown, probably was the sign. This was Texas. They don't really, care about safety. They care about guns, football, and faith. They don't care about safety down there. So, even, and the cool thing is that a lot of families moved into this apartment complex temporarily until their houses were being built in these new neighborhoods. Now, in the neighborhoods in the Woodlands, they don't call them neighborhoods. They actually call them villages. So if you hang around me a lot, you'll hear me talk about my village, which is my friends and family members and people that I have brought in close to my heart, my inner circle. But I probably originally got that term and that thought pattern from all the different villages that were made throughout the Woodlands. So the cool thing is because of all these families that moved into this apartment complex, you could walk outside your door on any given day, and there would always be a game of some sort going. I mean, you could get a full-on football game. You get, kickball in the parking lot. You'd ride bikes, and we'd build ramps, and we would jump our bikes, and I mean, just some real boy shit. I mean, and there were some girls there too. In fact, the hardest hit I ever took in a football game was I was actually clotheslined by this girl who was my best friend and one of my best friends at the time, and I was running free because we played with the older boys. I was younger, and we played with the older boys, and I was running for my first touchdown. I was sprinting down the sideline, and out of nowhere, this girl came and just clotheslined me so hard. I did a flip, landed on my neck, and my knees came down and punched me in the mouth, busted my lips and my nose all open. And I have to admit, I laid there and cried a little bit. It hurt. I was tore up. And then when I saw who did it, it made it even worse because, of course, all the guys were like, "Oh!" So, I mean, we just had the most amazing childhood because you could just, go over to the schools. There was people there. You could always, go up to the park. There was people there. At the pool, we play sharks and minnows after being out in that Texas heat playing ball all day. I mean, it really, really was a fun experience. But with hanging out with the older boys, there was two older boys specifically. Now, one of them is still very near and dear to my heart. He is my brother from another mother, my day one best friend. We've been friends for, let's see here, about 44 years now, something ridiculous. And I often joke with him and say the joke between us is, you're lucky I didn't have to kick your ass. And he's still my very, very dear friend and best friend to this day. Special Agent Louis J. Nalepa. So shout out to you, big homie. But the crazy thing is, when we were kids, he's a couple years older than me. And he and another kid, like I said, we were always best friends from the day we met, that we would play together. And so he and another guy that was also a couple years older than me, we would be playing a game, and eventually they would just say, okay, that game is over. The new game is, we're going to kick your ass. Now, that didn't sound like much of a fun game to me. So I would be like, oh no, that's not the game I want to play. And I would run on home, and I got a track scholarship, so I was always pretty quick. And so these two boys would chase me home. And I'd come home crying, and because, oh my goodness, these two guys were going to beat me up. And that didn't, again, sound like much fun. Now, there was my best friend, who was really crazy, and he was originally from New York. So, when New Yorkers coming to the South at that time, you kind of thought of them as crazy. And if you kind of knew his family, and his dad metamorphosized himself into Easy Rider, and they were big kind of people, and loud and boisterous and very New York. So you just felt they were tough, very West Side Story, But the other guy that was a part of this, I don't remember his last name. His first name was Brett. So Brett, wherever you are, I hope you catch this episode. Big up to you, big boy. Wherever you are, I hope you're living a great life. But what made Brett kind of unique was that Brett's dad was like 6'8". His mother was like 6'3". So in middle school, junior high age, Brett was humongous. I mean, he was just one of these kids that was just huge. And, I'm only 5'9" now, so I'm not a very big guy. At the time, I was, a little bit thinner. I was a kind of a beanpole. I was always kind of wiry and strong, but I was very wiry. Wiry was definitely how you would probably describe me back at that time. So having the Jolly Green Giant, and then having, New York's finest Hell's Angel, wanting to kick your ass every day was not on my top 10 things to do. So I would, like I said, I would run home. And so one day I run home crying, and my mother is at home, and she stops me. Single mom, as some of you guys have heard through some of our different podcasts, raised by a single mother. Before that was fashionable. I was first generation single mom, in that regard. And so she was home one day, and I came home crying, like, like, what's wrong, boy? And like, they're gonna beat me. And so my mother just, and all her tough Southern love, she's an old country girl from Kentucky. She just said, look, you're a black boy in the South. You don't have an older brother. I'm an only child. You have no one to look out for you. You're going to have to learn how to fight and defend yourself and stand up for yourself, or else you're going to be running home from bullies the rest of your life. And I'm here to tell you, if you come home crying one more time, it's going to be me and you. Now, I know, like a lot of people in today's day and age, maybe grew up with the Medea movies and Big Mama's House and some of these parodies you see out here today. But, I really did grow up with one of these very strong, physically strong, emotionally, spiritually strong women. And my mother is the type of person, we still joke to this day. I mean, she's 77 years old, and she still can stick her hands in scalding hot water like it's nothing. And yeah, don't ever follow her after she's been in the kitchen, because that water tap is going to be on scalding hot. And good Lord help you if you're not prepared for it. 3rd degree burn. I mean, it's really quite treacherous. Everyone always kind of look around and say, "Has Grammy been here?" Because you don't hit that water unless you know that you don't want to put your hand directly under that tap if she's been there, because it's going to be on scalding hot. And so, she, and even to the day, we call her hands the vice grips. I mean, if she puts her hands on you, I used to joke around with people. They always, especially my Caucasian friends, would be like, "Oh, I laugh at my mom when she spanks me, and we think it's funny." And I'm like, I don't know about your house, but I know at my house, if you're getting, we don't call them spankings back then, we call them whoopings. If you're getting a whooping, you could try to jerk away and be running up the street, but you're going to be running up the street that one-armed little boy, because her hand, your other arm's still going to be attached to that hand. You're going to have to rip your shoulder off and get out of there. You are not just jerking away. You're not getting out of those vice grips. So the crazy thing is one day I'm out playing kickball. My best friend, Louis J, doesn't happen to be there that day. I don't know where he was, and thank goodness he wasn't there. But the other kid was, Brett, and we're playing kickball. We're in it to win it, opposite sides, and there becomes a call on the play. And I'm arguing it, and he's arguing it. And again, I played with the older boys, so all the boys that were around us were older. And he's arguing this call, and I'm arguing this call, and we're both very heated and passionate about winning this game. I mean, it was a big deal for us, these games out in these parks and these parking lots, because we had full on games with 10, 12 boys on each side. I mean, it was really quite cool. And so eventually he gets tired of arguing back and forth with me, and he says to me, "If you do not see it my way, I'm going to kick your ass." Now, again, Brett is huge because his parents are huge. And I don't know where they were from, but they were the original ones of whatever they were, and they were called huge people, So, they were probably the first folks that took down the dinosaurs back in the day, whatever his tribe was. I mean, he comes from some big, big people. Not only were they tall, they were just large, broad. They probably had, ski or something in their name. I mean, they were probably the original Vikings or something. I mean, just big, big, big folks. So, of course, I'm like, "Oh my goodness, I don't want to get my ass kicked. I've been running home from this kid, and oh my goodness, he's going to beat me up." And of course, the other little boys here, "Fight!" And they're like, "Fight, fight, fight!" And I'm like, "Oh, I got to get out of here." So I go to turn to run, and I'm like, I can't run because mom's at home. And she told me if I run home one more time crying, it's going to be me and her. And if anyone ever met my mother, I mean, she's just a little short lady, 5'2", not very big, but she's got this quiet thing about her, like Yoda or like, Darth Vader or something. Like, "I will still hear the song," just make you just like, you can't never longer talk again. I mean, she's got this aura to her. And so I'm like, "Oh, I can't run home. What am I going to do?" So, I can't fight. I mean, I'm just a little guy, and, and I'm at that point before boys start growing muscles and voice starts dropping. I'm still in elementary now. Brett's in middle school, so he's got some muscles going, and maybe he's getting a little bit of a shag on his face, a little dirt on his lip, looking like growing in a little mustache. I mean, this dude, like I said, he came from some people. The missing link is probably in his lineage. I mean, big dude. And so I was thinking, oh my goodness, I can't fight, but I gotta, I gotta do something, and I can't run home. Now, for you younger folks, you're not going to remember this TV show. And Daniel, I know you're so young, you won't remember it, but there used to be a show called Three's Company. And it was about a guy who lived with two girls in an apartment, and he was single and they were single, but he had to pretend to be gay because the landlord wouldn't have rented to a single guy and single girls. This is how far back this is, when that was taboo, and you had to he had to pretend to be gay to, so the landlord would be like, "Oh, okay, it's okay, I'll rent to you." Now, what made that show interesting, it was very, very popular. It was kind of like Friends before Friends, that kind of feel to it, was that, coming out of the 60s and 70s, the white boys at the time. They went from having their long hair, their rat tails of the Willie Nelson look, to they started cutting their hair up a little bit, and they started having that kind of like a Donald Duck little shag in the back, where it was still a little bit longer, but it wasn't that rat tail down the middle of their back. And this kid had a haircut similar to that. You know that haircut, Daniel?
Mullet.
Well, yeah, I guess it was like pre-mullet. Mullet made it a little bit more. I guess it's kind of what the mullet became. It was a little bit more tapered up at the time. It'd be more business like. Because what do they say? Party in the front, business, or party in the back, business in the front with the mullet. So it was kind of like more of a mane, type of thing. It was. You could wear a suit and be fine with it. Jack Tripper was a preppy guy, kind of a person. But yeah, it would be what the mullet would have become for like country folk. I guess that probably started the mullet. NASCAR people. So I couldn't fight, but this dude had that haircut, and I just kind of jumped in his chest, grabbed him by his locks, and just started pounding him down. First, it was kind of against the car. Next thing you know, we end up on the concrete, and I'm just shaking him. Now, I don't realize at the time that I am just obliterating this kid. I'm just, he is screaming for Mother Jesus. He's like, he is screaming for Mother Mary, Jesus, Joseph, all the saints. I mean, he was calling on anybody. He was calling on Muhammad, Allah, all of them. He was calling on anybody and everybody he could think of, because I had him just pinned and he was just getting worked. Now, as I've told you before, another thing that makes the Woodlands very special is that it has bike trails woven all through it. You can get through almost any neighborhood from one side of the town to the other, weaving through bike trails. So you say goodbye to your kids in the morning. You usually didn't see them till that evening, and they could go play with friends all over the city because it was safe for them to travel on these bike trails. Now, just by chance, Brett's parents happened to be, and his older brother happened to be out on a bike ride that morning. Now, we know as parents, we know our kids cry. We know their happy cry. We know their sad cry. We know when they've hurt themselves. We know when they're in a panic and hurt themselves. And we can pick out our kids' cry in the middle of a rock concert. At least I know I can. I mean, I'm dang near hard of hearing, but if one of my kids are in anguish, I know that's my kid. They need dad. I need to get on my horse and get on over there and giddy up and get on over there and figure out what is going on with them. Well, like I said, this kid's screaming, and his parents and mama and daddy and brother knew that, hey, that's us. That's our kid. That's our kid. And they come busting through these little boys yelling, fight, fight, fight. Because of course, when you're a little kid, the best thing that can happen is a backyard fight, and you get to sit there and witness it if it ain't you in it. And so his brother and his dad try to pull me off by my arms, but I'm not letting go of this kid. I'm still just racking his head up against the concrete at this point. And they're trying to pull me off of him. Well, like I said, I wasn't very big, but I've always been kind of wiry and strong. I wouldn't let go. And so his mother, his 6'3", 6'2", 6'3" gargantuan mama came behind me as the husband had one arm, the brother had the other arm. And again, the brother's humongous too, because he's like in high school at this time. So he's a giant. And his mom, with those acrylic, Texas sharp nails, comes behind me and rakes my face. Like 1,000 paper cuts all at once. I'm like screaming. And I snapped back too, because I probably was in kind of some of a blackout mode or something of that nature. And I snapped back too, and I looked down and I got blood on me and my face is on fire. And I just know I got to get out of here. And I take off running. And I run home, and I remember running into my house, and my mother's actually sitting there doing dishes. And she looks up and she sees blood all over me and blood coming from my face. And she comes running around the post there, because you walk in, there was like a bar and there's a kitchen right there. She runs around the bar, and she's got this dish rag with her, and she's hitting me with this dish rag, trying to sop up this blood. But she's so strong and so small, and I'm so small. She's hitting me. She's really like beating me up with like these body blows, like, and I'm like trying, and I'm like, like, but I'm crying, like, little kids can't catch their breath, and and she's like, boy, where are you bleeding? And I'm like, and she's like, be quiet. You know how little kids do. And she's like, where's the blood? I'm like, it's not my blood, it's in my face. And I show her, and I'm pointing at my face. Like, she goes, what happened to your face, boy? And you see these like a caged tiger, like just like some lioness just took care of my face. And so she's like, what happened? So I tell her what happened. And so when my mother gets angry, she gets real calm. Just go to sleep, baby. That's all you gotta do. Al Green, just go take that shower. I'm gonna make you some grits. Go get in that shower. Get all lathered up. Get the soap in your face. Hot grits. I don't know if you know that story, but Al Green got caught cheating on his lady. She said, told him to go take a shower. She's gonna make him something to eat. Yeah, those grits on your skin. I don't know if you know what grits are. You from Detroit. I don't know if you know about grits, but you get some boiling hot grits on, you can't just wipe them off. They stick. And when they stick and you try to wipe them off, you're taking skin with it. So ladies out there that got a man cheating on you and you want to teach him a lesson, give him some hot grits. But my mother tells me, son, just go take a shower. I'll be right back. And of course, I'm thinking, where are you going? I'm hurt here. Go take a shower. I'll be right back. Now, if anyone knows my mother, she is truly one of these little Southern Belle type of ladies. She doesn't usually go out the house. You will probably never or very rarely catch her without a hat on, and typically she'll wear a scarf or something as well. So I just remember looking back, and she puts her coat on, she puts her hat, she puts her scarf, and out the door she goes. Now, unbeknownst to me, she takes a little walk across the apartment complex, and she goes and she knocks on Brett's door. And again, my mother's 5'2". Brett's dad, who answers the door, is 6'8". So he answers the door, and she grabs him around his belt buckle. So again, 5'2", 6'8". She's literally looking directly at his midsection. You can fill in the blanks of what she's really looking at. She grabs him by his belt buckle and one hands him, slams him up against the wall, and says, call for your wife. Now, of course, this is before ring doorbells and all the rest of that. When you knocked on someone's door, they maybe had that little peephole to look out of. But I don't even think at that time we even had that technology. So Brett's mom comes walking around the corner because, again, someone knocked at the door. And so when she comes around the corner, she goes to, like she's shocked to see my mother standing there. And of course, the dad's shocked to see my mother standing there. And my mother says to the dad, go stand behind your wife. Now, the wife goes to say something, and my mother's like, no, gives her basically talk to the hand before there was talk to the hand. I'm not here to talk with you. I'm here to tell you something. And so my mother really goes on to say, first and foremost, I want to let you know, and my mother talks very proper. I want to let you know that your son and another young man, both of which are a couple years older than my son, have been chasing my son home every day for the last 3 months, threatening to beat him up. Excuse me. So I do want to let you know, I'm sorry if your son was hurt here today, but I want to let you know he did deserve it. But that's not why I came over here. I came over here to tell you, and she's, again, looking at the mom's like 6'2", 6'3". My mom's 5'2". So again, a giant looking to a short woman. I came over here to tell you that if you ever, I want you to repeat after me, she says, if you ever breathe a single molecule of air as my son again, I'm going to kill you. And I just want to let you know that. Now, my mother's this little short church woman. I mean, she's literally a preacher's kid. My grandfather was a preacher. His father was a preacher. Long line of preachers in my family. I mean, just the sweetest, give you the shirt off her back, do anything for you. Everyone loves everyone. Everyone typically loves her. Just if she meets you once, you'll remember her for the rest of your life. I mean, she's just the salt of the earth kind of person, very nonviolent kind of person. But she was telling this lady, if you ever get close enough to touch my son again and definitely, rake his face, I don't care that you're 6'3", your husband's 6'8", your older son is, probably 6'5" or something, or he was some kind of giant himself, and your little kid here is also 6 feet plus or about that, in middle school. Come hell or high water, there will be nothing that will protect you from my wrath. I will come get you. And so, so the lady's like, she goes, no, just repeat after me. If you ever breathe a single molecule of air as my son again, I want to let you know I'm going to kill you. So now in true boy fashion, a couple days go by. We go back out to playing ball games again. Brett and I, made up, became friends. Now the cool thing is, and when it gets to the bullying portion, is that I, from that point forward, never ran from a bully ever again. Nor was anyone ever attempting to chase me home again. I got a little reputation of being tough, even though I was not tough. I just got lucky. And we went back to, playing in the park like we always did. But a couple months later, what makes the story kind of fun to wrap it up is Mom and I are at the grocery store. And my mother's a very good cook. She doesn't like to cook. She likes to decorate. She thinks a kitchen should be something that should be pictured in Better Homes and Gardens, if that magazine's still around, more so than Betty Crocker, who's actually in there making them fresh dumplings and donuts and pies and cakes and hams and all the rest. That was not my mother. So us at the grocery store means we were not in a pleasant mood because Mom did not like to meal plan. She could literally eat off a batch of carrots and a pot of beans for a month and be happy. Me, myself, I like a fresh meal every day. And so it was really funny that when I was a kid, I used to watch this channel called Nick at Night. Again, Daniel, you won't remember any of this stuff, but you're too young. But on that show, they had a TV show from like the 50s or 60s called the Donna Reed Show. And this lady would always be dressed to the nines and wearing pearls and heels. And her husband would come home from work and she would greet him at the door with a hug and a kiss and a cocktail and his paper. And he would always be so coiffed and he would sit and read the paper. And you'd look behind him, and in the dining room, the plates were, the china was all set out really nice. And there was always like a big turkey or a ham or a roast or something, and every day you tune in, there'd be something fresh and something new there. And I was always thinking to myself, man, that's the life I want. I want to do that. And I once asked my mother, Mom, how come you're not more like Donna Reed? Why aren't we having a fresh ham or well, we were Seventh-day Adventists, so we didn't eat ham, but we didn't eat pork, but why don't we have a roast or a turkey or something, on a Tuesday, and on Wednesday we get something new. And so of course my mother in her wisdom said, hey son, if you want that, you need to grow up and marry that. And so the joke's on me, my wife is not that, but but that's okay. That's a different subject for a different day. So we're at the grocery store. We're not happy. We're walking down the aisle, and you know how when you're at the grocery store and you got your carts, sometimes there's that one cart with the squeaky wheel that sound a number. Well, we hear this coming towards us, and we're talking, and usually at that time, the game my mother and I would play is I'd pick something off the shelf, like all I wanted in life was like a fruit roll up. And she would grab the box and she'd flip it over and she'd read the ingredients. She was about reading ingredients before that was fashionable. And she'd be like, sugar, cornstarch, and syrup, and da-da. And she's like, that's junk, put it back. I'm like, oh God, all I wanted was a fruit roll-up. All the other kids have fruit roll-ups at school. Why can't I get a fruit roll-up? But no, it had sugar in it. Put it back. And so we're not paying attention, but we hear the squeaky wheel coming towards us. Well, as we look up, the person coming towards us is Brett's mom. Again, in all her glory. She's naturally 6'2", 6'3", gargantuan of a woman. But now she's wearing them big old 6-inch Texas stilettos. She's wearing them high numbers. So she is really tall. Now she doesn't recognize us coming down the aisle because she's looking and grabbing her stuff off the shelves. But when she looks up and sees my mother and I standing there and coming towards her, her eyes get all big, like, you know, like the Freddy Krueger horror scene with the machete and all, you know, the Jason, like, I mean, he's just popped out from the tree and is like, gotta get you. And the eyes get bigger, mouth goes slack. And she goes to back up so quickly that she trips over one of her heels. She goes to fall, but because she's so tall and the cart is so low, she's trying to balance herself with the cart. She grabs the cart, and as she's tripping, she pulls the cart over top of herself. Now she's wearing, like the ladies at the time, they used to wear these accordion looking skirts. You know, you probably don't remember, maybe your mom wore them when you were younger, but you know, they kind of rippled out, kind of a deal, you know. And so as she's tripping and falling to the ground, and she's pulling the cart over on herself, her cart explodes, her purse explodes with all the stuff in it, everything goes out. Her skirt flips above her head. Now, I'm just a little guy. I mean, I don't know the ways of the world, and I sure don't know ladies' undergarments. And, you know, I'm raised with a little single church mom, you know, I mean, which, you know, once in a while you might catch a little brassiere being hung in the bathroom, being dried or something, but you didn't get any kind of no sexiness underwear or nothing going on in my house. And this woman had on a thong. Never seen one before. Didn't know what the heck all that was. Only thing I know was it was like, whoa, mom, there's a full moon over Georgia. Like, oh my goodness. Like, what? Mom, I can see. My mom's like, shut up, boy. Be quiet, be quiet, boy. This woman, all you hear is her and those nails trying to dig herself from under this cart. And she just takes off running without one of her shoes, and all her stuff's exploded. And she's got one shoe on, and she just takes off running out into the aisleway. And of course, all the other patrons are like, what in the Sam Hill is going on here? And my mother, in her true fashion, goes over, picks up her cart, puts all her groceries back inside of it, gets her purse, shoves all the, you know, whatever's in there, her compacts, her lipsticks, her glosses, whatever a woman carries in a purse that men aren't supposed to see. And, you know, and puts it in the cart, and she just pushes it out into the main aisle. And it kind of felt like, you know, when you're bass fishing and you drop your lure in, it's like, shh, you hear, and all you hear is poof. And then, and you just hear this wheel, that squeaky wheel, up to the front. You stop, you know, obviously she's checking out the groceries that she has, and then you hear all the way out to the parking lot. Lady's gone. And again, everyone's sitting there slack-jawed wondering, what did we just witness and what is going on here? So, you know, the cool thing is, again, it did teach me a very valuable lesson that bullies are people too. They can hurt like the rest of us can hurt. Usually most of them hurt others because they're hurting themselves. You know, maybe Brett was bullied at home by his brother, or, you know, obviously my best friend, unfortunately his folks went through a bad divorce, and he had a lot of inner turmoil going on with him. You know, you just don't know what's going on in other people's lives that cause them to act and react the way that they are. You know, maybe they're being hurt, so they try to hurt, you know, or that, you know, just don't know. So I would tell people out there, first and foremost, if you're a bully and you know you're a bully, take a deep look inside your own soul. Ask yourself, why is it important to me to inflict, you know, anguish or angst or harm or, you know, physical harm or mental, emotional harm to someone else that's weaker than me, that is perceived to be weaker than me? If you are the person being bullied, you might just have that little guy inside of you that says, "Hey, I'm done running. I can't run home. There's nothing but you know, a whooping waiting for me there, or whatever maybe would have happened. You know, I'm gonna face this bully and I'm gonna conquer this this mountain, this challenge." And a bully doesn't have to be just another person, you know, picking on you. A bully could be a problem at the job. It could be like, hey, I need to make this sales quota and I got to push through and I got to take all that self doubt and all those, you know, demons that come calling at night telling me I'm not good enough or I'm not worthy of this or I won't make it, or, you know, or if I just or, you know, quit now because you're not gonna, you know, you make another 10 calls and no one's gonna answer, they're all gonna tell you no. You know, self-doubt could be your bully. You know, you could look yourself in the mirror and be perfectly beautiful as you are, and you could look back at yourself and say, I'm ugly. That could be your bully. You know, you could have a spouse or a sibling or a parent that, you know, that should love you and that should be trying to lift you up and pick you up and make you feel the best you can be and make you feel whole and make you feel protected. And maybe they're the ones saying, maybe they're the ones telling you, yeah, you're just not good enough. You should go get a different job, or you're just not worthy, and try to withhold their love from you and use love as a weapon. Maybe that's your bully. But whatever the case may be, I'm here to tell you, no matter what the giant standing in front of you, my giant at that time was named Brett. And again, Brett, wherever you are, if you see this, you know, hope you're living a great life, homie. But that giant for me, even though I didn't know it at the time as a little guy in my life, it set me on a path of saying, you can do it. You are worthy. You can take down this bully and you'll never have to run again. You'll never have to cry again. You'll never have, not saying you won't face angst, not saying you won't face doubt, not saying you won't face, you know, challenges in life, but it gave me the strength to know that if you just jump into it and you just start swinging away at whatever that challenge, that problem is, if you just face it head on, you will get through it. It's like, you know, cows get caught in storms. Buffalo, they run straight into the storm because the buffalo has learned that if we run straight into the storm, eventually we'll run through the other side. Where if the cows that run away from the storm is always following them. Be the buffalo, not the cow. So for whoever that maybe needed to hear this, or for people that from the last episode that thought, like, oh, you're just a bully, you wouldn't understand what it's like to be bullied. You know, I want to let you know, yes, the alleged bully has been bullied. The alleged bully faced his accuser and won, and never had to feel like he ever had to run again, because I know in my heart, I have what it takes no matter what life deals me. And I'm not saying my life is perfect, because it is not. I deal with everyday life challenges like so many others out there in shit talking army. I know that you deal with it too. Life is hard. And if it was easy, then everyone would have a great one. And most people, as you look at our news, drive down the street and see the homeless on the side of the roads, you know, I hear about folks, and I just talked to a girl friend of mine last night that was telling me, even though everyone thought her life was perfect and she was this, that, and the other, and a bag of chips in our neighborhood, that, you know, there was times that even though her dad made plenty of money, he had a little bit of an issue, and he didn't always pay the bills, and they would come home and the lights would be off or the water would be off, and she'd have to go over her friend's house to shower or to, you know, to sit in lights and not dark with candles until dad was like, oh yeah, I probably should go pay that bill. uh, you don't know what's going on in people's lives and people's homes and behind closed doors. Just because we put smiles on our faces don't mean that we're happy inside. So, if you can, if you see somebody that looks like they need to be uplifted, uplift them. If you see somebody that that needs a kind word, give them a kind word. Tell your family members every day is not promised. Tell your people that are in your lives that you love them. I tell my guy friends all the time, freaks most of them out. Hey man, I love you. And I don't say it, to have some softer Hallmark moment. I say it because you never know. This might be the last time we get to speak. You don't know if I'm driving down the road and you're driving down the road and something bad were to happen. There's people that left for work this morning that will not come home. Their family's expecting them home. There's kids that are going to school today, just not that long ago. Our first show referenced a school shooting not too far from where Daniel and I live. I mean, within an hour drive of us. And those parents sent those kids off to school that morning feeling like, we're going to see our kids this afternoon. And maybe they ran out the door or ran to work or, ran out the door themselves and didn't tell little Johnny or little Missy, hey, I love you. Or little Johnny or little Missy just ran out to the bus or jumped in their car and drove off to school because it was a high school and didn't tell mom or dad, thank you for making me breakfast this morning and I love you. And now some of those parents, I can't remember how many kids died. It was like, what, 2 or 3 or 4, something of that nature, Daniel. There's at least 2 or 3 or 4 families out there that were seriously affected by that. And I think a couple of other kids that were seriously hurt, but survived, but their lives are forever altered, that just aren't the same as when those kids woke up that morning and left for school. So I'm here to tell anybody that I have wronged, whether I knowingly have wronged you, whether I unknowingly wronged you, whether it's a perceived slight or an actual slight. From the bottom of my heart, I'm sorry. And I hope that through the last 2 episodes, you can find forgiveness in your heart for me and realize this is coming from a deep, sincere place, this apology. I'm not just saying it to say it. I truly mean it. Again, to Brett out there, we went and played later on, so I know he was fine, even though he probably had a little headache. He probably had one of them. He should have been in concussion protocol. He shouldn't have been playing a couple days later. But I'm sorry that it had to get to that point. To my very best friend, I am glad I didn't have to kick your ass. That I thank you for your friendship, for your love for the last 40 plus years. And you're an amazing human being, and I love you and your family and everything about you very dearly. And it's just great that we've been able to be friends all these years. So for all those out there that maybe owe an apology to someone that from your childhood, and you can get a hold of them or get to them through someone else, like how this other situation came to me, it came to me through someone else, then, reach out and give them that apology and say, I'm sorry. And I hope that wherever you are, life is treating you well, and that whatever I did to you did not affect you to the point where it left you stuck somewhere. And if it did, please accept this apology and move on with your life and try to go find some happiness. So that's my story. I'm sorry again, Daniel, that I hijacked this. I don't know if you have any words you'd like to add to it after story time with Joseph Jordan. Logan Jordan, Joseph Jordan back then, Logan Jordan now. I go by my first name now. I used to go by my middle name back then. That was another thing that was called into question, why I go by my first name now, which is another funny story from college. But it's not because I'm an alias or that I'm hiding or being nefarious in any way. Logan is my first name, and most people that know me now know me as such. So that other gentleman from the last episode was really calling into question why I had a name change. So just to let you know, it was a college silly story that stuck. I guess that's kind of a theme of us, is things that stick. But Daniel, what do you have to say? Anything that you would like to tell the people before we wrap this up?
Do good. That's what I would have to say. You know, people, bullies, all that. Just love one another. Love your neighbor. Don't be trying to make yourself look better or bigger or better than someone else because you have a shitty situation at home or whatever your situation is. It's just deal with it.
Yeah. Well, like I said, you just never know what's going on with another person. All that
Exactly.
glitters isn't gold. As I say, you can't judge a book by its cover. And I just know from friends, and like I said, I was just speaking to a dear friend last night from back in my grade school days, and again they were telling me the sad story of how everyone thought their life was perfect and this, that, and the other, and they'd go home and the lights would be shut off or the water would be shut off. And now their dad made plenty of money, so they eventually got the lights turned back on or whatever. But it was just the point that, Dad, why are we in this position? Why aren't you paying the light bill or the water bill, or why isn't there food in the fridge? And why do I have to go over to my best friend's house to go take a shower and maybe get a meal? So you just never know. You never know when people are smiling and saying, thinking, oh man, they're just amazing. Maybe they're not so amazing, and maybe they actually need you to tell them how amazing they are because they look themselves in the mirror and don't see that. So like Daniel said, love on each other, lift each other up. Today, let's shit talking army. Let's make a vow that each one of us today will go out and make it our mission to see one person that we can smile at, say hello to, and maybe give them a little, uplift. It could be like, oh man, I really like your shoes, or wow, you look really pretty today in that dress, or whatever, because whoever that person you're speaking to probably shopped all day for that dress to make them look just right, or maybe saved up money. I know a lot of, my friends or my kids, they save up money to go get the fresh pair of kicks or, a video game or whatever. They do their chores and what have you to try to get their little extras they want. You just don't know what a kind word or someone just saying, I see you, I recognize you, and you mean something to me, what that would mean to that person. So shit talking army, let's make it our mission to lift up one person today. And then if we can, let's try to do it next day. But if we can't do it on a daily basis, maybe say, let's lift up one person a week. And if each one of us lifts up one person a week, that will snowball and accumulate. And if they say to you, wow, that really meant something to me, say, you know what, I challenge you now to go lift up one person. And if we can all lift up one person and those people can lift up one person, next thing you know, there will be a movement and there will be a lot of goodwill that's been put into the earth, not taken from it. So from the alleged bully and from my buddy Daniel, that's all we have today. Again, like, subscribe, comment, send show ideas, or if you want to be on the show and be a special guest, we're going to start inviting guests onto the show. We would love to invite our audience to join the show if they have great ideas or things that they want to talk about. Daniel, again, give them that email address.
It's twodadstalkingshit@gmail.com.
And is it the traditional spelling of shit, or is it with the dollar sign, with the number sign?
It has some shit.
Okay, it's the traditional way of saying it. All right. Two dads talking shit at gmail.com. Please, we would love to get your comments, your thoughts, things we could do better about the show besides me talking so much. I already know that one. That's already on the list. And Daniel, I promise you will get the next one. So thank you again, everyone, for tuning in. Pay attention. Please share this throughout your social media platforms, or share it with someone that you think maybe could benefit or could gather something from it. We truly love you guys, and we are out.